She kept going back to that room. The dog kept blocking the door. Only one of them was right. The toddler wanted to play in there. The border collie refused to let her. It took 4 days to find out why. Juniper was 2 years old and had the particular gravitational relationship with a room that toddlers sometimes develop for no apparent reason. The small bedroom at the end of the hall had been emptied for renovation, a project that had stalled at the demo stage, leaving stripped walls and bare floors and the dusty potential of a room that would eventually be something. It smelled like old drywall. It had exposed baseboard piping. It was not a room for children. Juniper did not share this opinion. She had discovered the door could be pushed open with both hands and enough running momentum, which she had discovered on a Wednesday, and after that she made for it at least 4 times a day with the targeted certainty of a 2-year-old who has identified something she has been denied. Her mother, Claudia, would redirect her. Juniper would redirect right back. This was not unusual behavior. 2-year-olds are in the business of testing the perimeter, and Juniper had been in that business since month 18. What was unusual was Reef. Reef was a 3-year-old border collie, black and white, with the herding drive that his breed carried like a second skeleton. He had always corralled Juniper in the way that border collies corralled things, with positioning rather than contact, by getting where he needed to be before the subject knew he was going there. He had been the reason Juniper had never made it to the top stair unaccompanied. He had been the reason she had never made it to the back gate. He did not bark. He just arrived and stood and was immovable. He did this at the renovation room door starting Thursday. If you stay for stories about what animals sense, before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Claudia thought at first that he was mirroring her own anxiety about the room. Claudia was nervous about the room. The exposed baseboard piping, the stripped walls, the general chaos of a half-finished project. If she had tension in her body when she redirected Juniper away from that door, Reef was picking it up. That was her theory. By Saturday, she had a second theory. Reef had started entering the room himself and standing in the middle of it and looking up at the ceiling, at the corner where the old crown molding met the window frame. He would stand there and then come back out and position himself at the door again. He did this 3 times on Saturday afternoon. Claudia stood at the door and watched him and looked where he was looking and saw nothing. Sunday morning, she called her husband, Marco, who was away for work, and described what the dog was doing. Marco said, "He keeps looking at the ceiling." Claudia said, "Yes." Marco said, "There was a wasp nest last summer in the wall cavity above the window." The exterminator said he got it, but sometimes they come back in spring. He said, "Look at the window frame." Claudia did not have to look at the window frame. She could hear it from the doorway when she stood still. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. There were 2 nests. The exterminator who arrived Monday morning found them in the wall cavity above the stripped window frame. A primary nest approximately the size of a cantaloupe that had been developing since early March, and a secondary structure 3 feet to the left that was newer and already active. The primary nest contained, in the exterminator's assessment, between 300 and 400 ground yellow jackets. The wall cavity connected to a gap that had been opened by the renovation work. A toddler pushing open that door and running into that room, in the way that Juniper ran into rooms, would have breached the wall gap, at roughly her height, at running speed. The exterminator used the word colony. He said it the way people use words that mean something larger than their dictionary definition. Reef had been smelling the colony through the door since Thursday. The pheromone signature of an active wasp nest at that volume was, the pest control supervisor told Claudia when she asked, absolutely detectable to a dog through a standard interior wall. They were trained to it. Some of them found it and didn't know what to do with the information. Reef knew what to do. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The renovation project is on hold, pending the full inspection of the remaining wall cavities. The door now has a proper bolt latch at adult height. Juniper has transferred her gravitational interest to the kitchen junk drawer, which is a problem of a different order of magnitude. Reef has not returned to the renovation room since Monday. He has not positioned himself at the door. He is back to his usual occupation, being in front of Juniper and around Juniper, and approximately 4 steps ahead of Juniper at all times, in the way that Border Collies carry out the work they were built for. Claudia stood in the doorway of the renovation room on Tuesday evening, with the door open, and looked at the patched wall, where the nest cavities had been sealed, and thought about Thursday, when she had assumed Reef was mirroring her anxiety. That had been a reasonable assumption. It had been a wrong assumption. There is a difference, and the difference had mattered. The next story coming to this channel, a rescue dog who refused to let a new baby leave the house, and why the vet's explanation of what the dog could smell left the family completely silent.